Welcome to KNN. KNN is brought to you by Bob Knakal, Chairman of New York Investment Sales at JLL.
So Bob, the goal of this legislation was to protect tenants that are in rent-regulated apartments today. Is this going to do that, and is it going to improve their quality of life moving forward?
Well, I think another one of the unintended consequences, Hags, is that their quality of life is not going to be improved. The incentives that the private sector have based on these new rules will lead them to do the absolute minimum that they possibly can do in terms of enhancing the quality of the building or enhancing the quality of the apartment. There's no incentive to do major capital improvement work to the building, so the building is going to be in poorer condition. There is going to be every incentive to try to minimize the costs. So we have a lot of clients who plant a lot of flowers every year at their building. Those flowers are not going to be planted anymore. There are people who have extra maintenance, extra cleaning to keep the buildings clean. Maybe instead of the maintenance folks mopping the halls 5 times a week, they do once a week now. There are going to be ways that owners are going to have to try to find to operate to reduce their overhead costs. But more importantly, for the tenants themselves, a number of our clients will go to someone who's in that $1,200 a month apartment and it's worth $7,000 a month and say, how would you like a brand new kitchen? Your kitchen is decades old. Why don't I give you a brand new kitchen? I'll renovate it with you in place. You'll have to pay another $258 a month. You're still going to be paying less than $1,500 a month, much less than the apartment's worth, and you get a brand new kitchen. And a lot of owners used to do that, but today there's no incentive to do that. We've already had tenants call some of our clients asking for new kitchen or new bath, and the answer is simply no. There's no incentive to do it. So unfortunately, the quality of life for people is probably going to be diminished. There's certainly no incentive to enhance the quality of life for the tenant. These unintended consequences are very significant.
Bob, recently, 2 of the major trade organizations that represent property owners filed a lawsuit to challenge the new regulation that's come out. Can you talk about that lawsuit and the merits?
Sure. Well, that lawsuit was brought by RSA and CHIP, challenging the constitutionality of this law, citing that it is a taking of private property because of all the restrictions placed on it. And interestingly, the last time that a constitutional challenge was done to try to circumvent or change these laws was back in 2010. It was the Harmon case. Harmon sued to challenge the constitutionality of the laws. And interestingly, in the 26-page response that New York State Attorney General Eric Schneiderman filed to support that the law was constitutional, almost all of the points that were made to say that the law was constitutional were supported by things that the current law took away. This was made clear to us by our friend Nish Kassoff, who brought this to our attention, and it's unbelievable how the 2 arguments parallel each other. If you look at the first 3 arguments were that when a tenant vacates an apartment, you can bring the apartment to market. You get a vacancy bonus was cited. The fact that you could do improvements to the apartment and pass along part of those costs to the tenant was cited. The fact that you could do a major capital improvement to the building and pass along part of those costs to the tenant was cited. Now, while you still can pass along an IAI and an MCI, it is significantly reduced from what it was in the past, and the vacancy bonus is gone completely. So those 3 arguments for why the law is constitutional now are no longer a basis for making that argument.
Wasn't also one of the arguments, Bob, taking apartments back for owner occupancy?
Yeah, another one of Eric Schneiderman's points about the law being constitutional was that you could take 1 or more units out of stabilization to use for your own occupancy. Now it's limited to just 1, so you don't have the multiple units that can be taken back for your own occupancy if you want, even in your own building. And Hags, 2 other things that Eric Schneiderman cited in his arguments was that You have high income deregulation and high rent deregulation. And those are two things that supported, again, this thought that the law is constitutional. Well, both of those are no longer available to owners. So these changes have been unbelievable. It's almost as if the person drafting the new regs looked at what Schneiderman had drafted previously and wanted to go completely opposite of what the argument was in the past.
A lot that we covered so far, Bob. Any other points of merit or major points that you want to bring up?
Well, sure. In that 2010 document, again, it said that the program was constitutional because it leads to a gradual deregulation of units. But the fact is, there is no deregulation of units under the current system. Those units will stay rent regulated forever. So another point that was made that doesn't hold water anymore.